Hello, hello, hello. Hello, sound volume levels. Hello, and we're back with more Dwarf Fortress. Waiting for the screen to catch up here. And it's doing it now. Okay, so let's see what we're doing a little better by zooming in. There we go. That helps. And let's see, try to make the text bigger by saying military and zoom in on this. Should affect the other text. Yeah, there we go. And that can be smaller. All right. So when we last left off, I was showing a brief tour of the fort, and we had done the top, and we had done the mines, and we did the forging area, the magma forges, and we did the bedrooms, so we're almost done. When we kind of did this main mushroom tavern area here. Let's see. Although, didn't really look at all the cool decorations in the mushroom farm kind of area. But let's see. I'm not really sure where the cool ones are, so rather than waste any time with that, I'm going to move on to the few areas we didn't talk about yet, which is we have a library here, and I'm a little bit surprised that Aquaman, Duke of Swampcavern, isn't here, because for some reason he spends a lot of time in the library. But what we do have is a bunch of scholars discussing the pulley, and if they do this for long enough, they might actually invent the pulley or write books about it. Let's see. This guy is a human bard. It's a woman, actually, and her name is Toast. And I laugh because I named a character in Kenshi that just recently, so kind of a recurring thing with me. I wonder if there's a reason why in this case. All right. Now here we have a character named Chicken. And to me, that's a warning not to put this guy in my military. I guarantee you anything, he's got the trait, will run from even the most necessary of battles. So sometimes I name my guys Scaredy or Fraidy or just something to remind me not to put him in the military because they would be terrible at it. Lord Consort, P-Bang Shootmoot. That is a male. That sounds like a elf name to me. And we let in a bunch of nobles from other nations in an attempt to increase our political power in the world. And of course, that's pretty much role-playing on my part, but that's, everyone's got kind of this headcanon thing they do to explain what they see in their Dwarf Fortress worlds. Yeah. There's a kind of a weird overlap between Dwarf Fortress and Kenshi, between the bad guys showing up, whether it's the goblins or the monsters or whatever, and then they both kind of have the tower defense aspect of shooting archers from a fortified position or whatever. So, I mean, it's almost as if Kenshi drew a little inspiration from Dwarf Fortress. Although those are the parts I like about it, so can't really complain. Over here we have a very unique individual in the fort. It's Nurzung, the goblin, and she is a poet, and she came to us with a group. I think their name was the Strange Plants. It was a musicians troupe, and we let them in because their name was so funny. But Nurzung has kind of a history of depression because she is a goblin, and we have killed so many goblins in this fort, and everyone in the whole fort somehow always saw it. Like every battle, every person in the fort saw every goblin that got killed. And that made Nurzun really quite upset for the longest time, to the point where she would routinely go to the office of Aquaman, the Baron of Swampcavern, and cry on his shoulder, more or less, or yell at him. I imagine the conversation went something like this: "Stop killing all the goblins!" And then she'd feel better about it, and then Aquaman, strangely enough, enjoyed these meetings because it made him feel useful. So they know each other well because she's been in his office many times, mostly to say stop killing all the goblins, probably. Who else is hanging out in the library? Geese fur, obviously they like the geese. Chicken, I mentioned. Human, who's never renamed. Pandivine. They're reading something. Let's see. They're reading A Course on the Center. I'm curious about that activity, so I will view the activity. This is a giant dingo parchment quire. All our books are written on quires because I'm afraid if we bind them, we'll destroy them. That was a bug that was going around, especially in this version. That's the problem. Written on the item is a manual entitled A Course on the Center, authored by Geesver. It concerns the theory that the sun moves around the world. The writing has a very serious tone. Overall, the prose is not awful, but not very good either. Good for you. Pandivine is reading the quire of the author who's standing right next to him. How often do you get to do that? Gookie, the human scholar, are you one of us, or are you just visiting? I don't actually know. We do have at least 10 visitors in the fort at the moment. Here is Kemus Osaliche, the human poet. He is a male, and he's not doing anything. He must be one of ours. I can tell because for some reason our guys like to come to the library and hang out and do no jobs. I mean, I started that sentence before I clicked on the guy, right? Hornbill the scribe, currently not doing anything. All right, Toast is going to get a drink. I wonder what happens if I let time run. Let's find out. Oh, I wonder if she is a spy. There were villains in this version. There were the plots and the bad guys. It's just they're not really hooked up to the world in this version. So I was just curious what the frames per second would drop to, because under good conditions, it was running reasonably well. But good conditions don't including me running broadcasting software and internet tabs so I can see what I'm doing, how many viewers I have, if I have any comments. So these are actually very bad conditions, and it's still running kind of. It's not good. 10 frames per second. At least the little dudes are visibly moving around doing stuff. Could be way worse, actually. I don't know. For me, playable is 13 to 15 to 18 range because I did that for the longest time. 20 is much nicer. 23 is actually pretty pleasant. And on up from there, I only ever achieve its starting forts. So, yeah, 30 frames per second is great. But and then I know some people have it cranked up so that it's even faster than that at the start. But I don't like that because little dudes zip around so fast you can't tell what's happening. Right now what's going on is people are wandering in and out of rooms. Water is falling down a waterfall. Someone cooked a masterpiece. Let's see. So I wonder what other rooms I have in the fort that I haven't talked about yet. I know the temple was in there somewhere. And here it is. It's almost like they went there on purpose, which I did not. This is a temple to no particular deity. The dwarves have 10 or 11 different ones. I think I put up a statue to all of them sooner or later. Let's see if that's true. Crystal glass statue of Stukos. Oh, except I just accidentally selected someone. A lady. literally noble from some civilization. Enter to view description. This is a crystal glass statue of Stukos. The item is an image of Stukos, the deity of chaos, depicted as a male dwarf and three dwarves in crystal glass by Screamhorse Gatizlakok. Stukos is fighting with the three dwarves. Well, you know, he's the deity of chaos. What did you expect? Let's see. Uh, so, we have a few tables, few chairs. We took the time to make a statue to each of the major dwarves deities. I could go and make an individual temple to each of them, but right now my idea is I'd much rather go and make a big water park. I was kind of thinking of something with waterfalls, maybe its own stream or a pond or even a fountain. I was thinking of trying to create a fountain in Dwarf Fortress. Which I would achieve by just having a reservoir of water on one level that would go down to a place set up for it deliberately to appear and then drain away safely, but where the dwarves could see it. Maybe it could generate mist. I don't know. Over here we have a meeting place specifically for dwarves. It's in the heart of the fort. I wanted a place my guys could go to eat that wasn't one of the taverns, because one of the problems with the taverns we've been having is werebeasts keep appearing in them, including the one in the middle of the heart of our fortress. And we've been losing people that way, which... Yeah, you mentioned it's close to FPS death. I brought this fort back from the brink of FPS death to advance time the way I did to get my giant tigers to finally grow up and become more breeding pairs. I did every trick in the book. I killed animals. We're doing it now. We're sacrificing giant cave spiders because we have too many to make the FPS bounce back. Is there a way to make a flow that doesn't go past 3.7 or 4.7? Absolutely. Usually you can achieve deliberate levels by making a reservoir of one size and then having it go to the area you're actually trying to use. And if it doesn't turn out to be the right level, change it by making it either bigger or smaller to get the effect you're going for. Because it's not easy to calculate, but you can get there by experimentation with just a little fiddling around. For instance, FPS is really good in this game if you can get a lot of 7 water level depth, because then it's not constantly calculating depth changes. Here I have this waterfall that's falling through many, many levels, and then it falls through a kind of safety level of nothing but pillars. Here, it's right next to the well room. And then down below it, it's draining off the map, and it just barely reaches, but it does. And that means it's not the worst for FPS that you could get. I would say drying up somewhere by the end would probably be about the worst you could get for FPS for water flow. But this thing is here, you see this wall that was built in, because when I first built this thing, this hallway was too wide and the water wasn't making it off screen. It is actually making it off screen. You can tell by these little blue squares over here. If we dumped in a little bit more water from the river, we could get some of the depths up here that aren't being displayed right now, but these aren't all 7s. Somewhere back here there's probably a 7 in this little area here. And then there's also even a thing that goes down as the reservoir for the well room above it. So one thing I'm pretty good at is the water mechanics in the game. I can reroute rivers, drain lakes, move lakes. That's one part I have pretty good experience with, that and lava. Yeah, I mean, like I once made a lake for, I made a lot of, we had tamed cave crocodiles. We had like 210 of them. And I made a little swimming pool for them to swim around in. I thought they might like it, you know, and managed to do it without destroying the fort. Although I've also ended forts with water accidents, so there is that. Here we have one of the taverns I never talked about in the first 2 parts of the stream. This is meant to be sort of an exhibition hall or a stage, you know, or a play space. And at the moment, no doubt, they're using it for something like that. This guy is socializing, socializing. There's a deliberate wood area stage over here. Oh yeah. In one fort, we did have we tried launching the 200 cave crocodiles at the goblins, but they didn't have any backup, and the goblins had armor. So unfortunately, the cave crocodiles mostly would fight the goblins and would bite them, and their bites weren't really getting through the armor. And meanwhile, the goblins were pretty good at killing cave crocodiles that didn't have any dwarves or anything for backup. Where I've also had war rhinoceroses fighting side by side with my dwarves in a narrow hallway, and they did great. They barely took a scratch, but then again, they had a lot of backup and help. So what we have here is a row of chairs and tables so that you can sit here and eat your dinner and watch the play or the dancing or whatever is going on at the time. If you go up a level, there's a balcony area that looks down into the space and has a clear view of it. One side was the barons and the other side was the mayors, and they had to be closed down because they were too popular. And when we were trying to make the dwarves dance, instead everyone was hanging out with the baron or hanging out with the mayor as if they were deliberately trying to gain political power or something. And let's see, do we understand Pamud Rotgale? I'm such a tangent-oriented person. I can't help but get let off in funny, different little ways, like when people are talking to me or when I stumble across random stuff. So let's get into it a little bit. Oh yeah. See, there's an idea about dropping goblins into water or stunning them. I know falling water certainly hurts things because the waterfall in this fort occasionally hits a dwarf badly enough to make him bleed and leave blood in the hallway. But overall, I think the waterfall through the heart of the fort is worth it because it makes people so happy. Whatever incidental injuries are sustained are few and far between enough that I think it's fine. So here we have these balconies, and they're decorated with statues that mean something to us. Often they're probably going to be politicians or just things we like. Yeah, a statue of a person. Statue of dwarves. I don't even have to look at it. It's going to be dwarves laboring or traveling for the founding of Swampcavern, because so many of these are going to be. Anarchy is one of ours. Gabbro Gear Assembly. This is something made from a strange mood. It has a name. I'm sure it's got all sorts of properties. Let's see. Oh, this one was fairly early on, so it's only made of lead, cave spider silk, bands of oval gabbro cabochons, lead, oval clear zircon cabochons, alpaca wool, and date palm wood. Only. I say that because later artifacts in Swampcavern were made by people who had already made an artifact, so they had so much skill in it that they would just pile up materials before they started going, and it would be made out of 10 or 20 things. We got some pretty crazy artifacts eventually. And if this isn't enough, on top of this layer is another balcony with a clear view of the whole thing below it. So this is 3 layers up with a whole ceiling dug through so they can see down below. And all these walls with the fancy decorations on them are most of them are things that happened in this fort or in this biome. And here is that ever popular goblin getting killed by an elf, because that was one of the few early things that happened in history. And there was this jaguar that killed an elf, and it was one of my dwarf's favorite subjects to